Hi,
Hi,
it's good to see you.
it's good to see you too.
Can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So, my name is Kaylee. I am a sociology PhD candidate, and I teach some undergrad classes as part of my assistantship at the university. And I'm also a member of the First United Methodist Church of Denton.
What are some of the ways that you participate at First United Methodist Denton?
So, I attend the open service, which is one of the modern services that they have. And I also volunteer on Sunday mornings and evenings with the youth group. And I love to go on mission trips and retreats with them as well when I get a chance. I am also the co vice president of our church's unit of the United Women in Faith, which is an organization within the United Methodist Church that is full of women who work to put their faith in action in different ways. And we meet regularly throughout the year. So I'm involved with United Women in Faith in that way, as well as working with the youth. And one of my favorite things I get to do at uh, FUMC Denton is be a co-leader of Pub Theology, which is an event where once a month we get together at one of the local bars here in Denton, and we choose a different theological topic each month to discuss. And it is a really great way to get out of the church and be in the community and discuss things in a way where you don't necessarily have to have the quote unquote Sunday school answer for everything. We can just discuss theology openly and honestly and ask questions and have answers that maybe some people wouldn't always feel comfortable doing within the church setting. Um, Even though at FUMC Denton we tend to be pretty comfortable with all sorts of answers and perspectives within our church setting, but by doing it at a bar or a pub, it kind of lets people relax a bit. So
Yeah.
that's another thing I get to do at FUMC Denton that I really enjoy.
Can you speak a little bit more about your involvement with United Women in Faith? Could you, for anyone who didn't grow up Methodist,
Mm-hmm.
has no clue what United Women in Faith is, could you explain what that is?
Right. So, United Women in Faith has had a few names over the years. Um, Most recently, some people may have known it by the name United Methodist Women. That changed a few years ago with all of the stuff going on with the split in the UMC, so that everyone who's already involved, regardless of where their congregation went in the split, would be able to continue on working together. But it has its roots really all throughout the Methodist tradition of women coming together to fight for themselves and especially to fight for others. There have been um, a lot of social action campaigns. So, a lot of these women historically have been involved in things like um, the fight against segregation, for example, fighting for racial justice, social justice of all kinds, equality for women, climate justice as well, working to protect the earth as we are called to do by God, and do that in different ways. So it looks like action in the community, um, and working in any manner of ways that you could do to get that done. So whether that's going to school board meetings, um, local, city council meetings, or being involved in more broad, state or federal politics, um, and really trying to um, enact these social things that we are called to do as Christians in order to love our neighbors. Recently, it's been advocating locally and um, statewide for um, things like trans kids. So, doing letter writing campaigns, um, and bolstering existing campaigns, trying to protect um, trans kids who are at risk from the Texas government, and some of those other uh, issues that have come up statewide in the past few years have been ones that United Women in Faith, and I know specifically our members at FUMC Denton have been really working to um, fight on behalf of the people who have been most at risk of losing their rights,
Mm-hmm.
of being targeted um, just because of their identity and because they're an easy scapegoat.
There was something interesting I noticed that um, so you work with the youth,
Mm-hmm.
and I assume engage with older women
Mm-hmm.
at the United Women in
Yeah.
Faith, and I was thinking about that, and I thought that was interesting because you're working in sort of a intergenerational
Mm-hmm.
manner. Can you
Yeah.
can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about FUMC Denton really is its intergenerational nature. It is a really historical church. It's been around for somewhere around 150 years, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right here in downtown Denton. And it really is very integrated into the community. And in that intergenerational nature, you have Sunday school classes and groups and just community events where you can see people of not only all walks of life, but all stages of life
Mm-hmm.
in there. And um, we do joke sometimes when I am at some of these events where it's mostly older people that I bring the average uh, age down by a few decades. But I really love being in that position because I have learned so much from the older people at our church. They have
Hmm.
so much to give. I've learned so much, especially from the older women who I really look to as role models of what I would like to be, given the work that they have done over their lives, many of them since before I was born. They've been working in ways that I'm only just now coming into and joining them in on. I take it very seriously looking at them in their lives and trying to figure out how I can, in my life, one day be the person that people look to and go, oh my gosh, she's been she's been in it for decades now. She has, you know, been fighting the good fight for a long time.
Hmm.
Because that really is what it is. It's fighting the good fight. And when it comes to the younger generations, of course, they tease me about being old, which is great. So I really get it from both ends. Um, but we have a lot of fun, and I do learn a lot from them too about just the young, um, the younger culture, younger experience, and I am glad that I have them, that I can hear about their lives now and how it's different from when I was there, so that I can understand that and not just go through the world thinking that I understand what it's like to be a teenager, because I did it not that long ago. Um, but I hope that I have a touch point there with them, um, by being able to hear what their lives are like now and how it's different. Um, because being a teenager has always been a pretty fraught time, but right now is a really tough time to be
Yeah.
to be that age and to be developing. So yeah, that's kind of how I I get uh, both ends of the age spectrum in my experiences. But I am also really grateful that through things like pub theology and just other general church activities, I do get to interact with a lot of folks my own age.
You get a broad
Yeah,
spectrum. That's really
I get a
cool.
broad spectrum, which is great.
Yeah.
But I do love when we can all come together, in intergenerational ways, and we get to do that a lot at our church-wide events.
Hmm.
And we have had a few things where we bring, like, for example, United Women in Faith ladies together with some of the girls and youth,
Hmm.
um, for an event. And those times are really special because I feel like it's all of us, across the ages coming together to work on something, and or just to be together.
Yeah. Why do you think why do you think it's important to build those intergenerational connections?
Well, I think it's important to build connections, period. I
True.
think that community is everything. It's what
Mm-hmm.
makes us human. It's what helps us survive. It is what reminds us that each other are human. In general, I think that community is, so necessary, and it can be really easy to lean into communities that are all or mostly made up of people who are just like us. But that's not really real human life. You know, we
Hmm.
we all are so different, and we have different needs and wants and values. And I think the real test of our values and test of how we can be as people is how we are when we're in community with each other. And it can be difficult to be in community with people who are different from us. And that includes different generations, because we've each had different experiences, and as we get older, it's kind of a stereotype, right? That you can get harder, um, and more crotchety because you have lived through it, you've been through it all, and an old dog doesn't feel like learning new tricks. But it's really important, at all ages, to listen to each other and to hear what each other are going through. Like I said, with my experience as a teenager being different from the experiences of teenagers who are, just 10, 15 years younger than me, that's not that long a span of time for things to change. But because technology has changed so rapidly, they are living different lives,
Mm-hmm.
and the world is different. And so it would be wrong of me to dismiss them and their experiences just because I've been through it before. Um,
Hmm.
and it would also be wrong of me to dismiss the experiences of older generations, um, and not value their contributions and perspectives just because I think that they can't understand the current moment or that they can't understand what I'm going through. We're really blessed at FUNC Denton to have a lot of people who have stayed very connected in the communities, and I think regardless of where they might be in understanding specific technologies or whatever, they seek to understand their fellow people. And so I've been lucky that most of them are very interested in what's going on and in us, and they're not just crotchety old folks.
Yeah.
You know. And so yeah, I think that going across generations is part of building any community, because we each have something different to contribute. And that's just one of the aspects that makes a strong community, in addition to things like having people who are of different, races and ethnicities and sexual orientations and genders and, whatever else you can think of. All of these different identities inform who we are as people, and we bring that to the table. And when we bring that to the table, we're bringing ourselves. And if our fellow community members bring themselves, and we can accept those things in each other and be kind and respectful about the things that maybe we don't want to accept, or that we disagree with sometimes. That's what community is. It's not just agreeing with everybody or being like everybody else, or even liking everybody else in that community.
Right.
It's loving them, and it's respecting them, and it's taking care of them, regardless of the different aspects of themselves that they are bringing to the table.
I love that. With everything going on in the world and, people using faith to harm people, how do you remain hopeful and remain hopeful that the church can be a force for good?
I think that's a really important question. We're dealing with a lot of forces that are pushing narratives of Christian nationalism, of a style of Christianity that feels divorced from the ways of Christ.
Yeah.
And I do not begrudge anyone who sees those forces and is turned off by church because of it, or feel like they can't deal with listening to Christians anymore because of those kinds of operators. I completely understand that. But that is why it is also more important than ever for people of faith, especially Christians, to stand up and fight for the things that Jesus fought for, which were loving God and loving our neighbors. It is completely easy and understandable to get bogged down in it all, to get bogged down in the darkness, and to feel hopeless, especially when you may have been somebody who has fought really hard for something and you haven't seen it come to fruition yet, or you fought against something that seems like it keeps winning. And what I will say about hope is that it is it's a requirement. It is the necessary answer to our situation now and into life in general. Personally, there's nothing that I hate more than cynicism, because I think that it's a cop out.
Yeah.
Because cynicism tells us that nothing matters and that you can't do anything about it. And that just completely prevents any action. And hope is what brings us to action. It is what gets us out of bed when it hurts. It is what gets us to the local community meetings or to the polls to vote or to a protest or to volunteering or just to showing up for our friends and family. Hope is what gets us there, because it is the belief that we can do something about our situation. And we have to believe that we can do something about our situation if we're going to do anything. So I can't promise that a change is going to come, but I can promise you that if you remain hopeless and you give in to cynicism, that it won't come.
Yeah. How do you think your faith practices helps you keep that faith, keep that hope alive?
Well, my faith practices center me. They help me with general anxiety and things like that. I am really bolstered by every conversation I have with the members of my church, and with the members of my Denton community that I see at other kinds of events or out at places like pub theology. And yeah, just being a part of something bigger and being one small element of a larger community of people who share my values is really humbling and helpful, because I may not even have the same exact beliefs as another person who is with me at Bible study or church or volunteering. We may have some different ideas about God or about different doctrines, but together we are seeking God and seeking something greater. And that reminds me that I am just one small part of something bigger, which is helpful because I think it helps take the weight off our own individual shoulders and remind us that we are just one person, and we don't need to do it all.
Yeah.
But being a part of a community like that also reminds me that just being one person does not excuse us from doing something. That it takes so many people working together to reach a goal. And for my faith practice, that's also within the larger spiritual context of believing that, you know, I'm just one human who is loved by God and who is doing my best to love God and to love my neighbors as I'm called to do. And I don't have to be perfect at that. On the personal or interpersonal level, or the global level. I don't I don't have to be perfect at any of those things.
Right.
Because it's not just up to me. It's up to greater forces like God. And it's also up to the greater forces of just my fellow humans who are also part of the fight and keeping hope and working towards something better than what we have now.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope by my faith practices personally centering me and giving me space to be around other people who have hope as well and who are doing something.
Yeah. So maybe a way to put it is that things like prayer and even like reading scripture and going to church, these are all ways to remind ourselves that A, we are not alone, and B, we belong to this larger community of people from the past and people now and the people that will come after us. We're in this community all together.
Yes.
I think these faith practices are a way to center ourselves and remind ourselves of that we're one part of this bigger story.
Yes. And I think that's exactly right. And I think it can be hard for us in our context here in America, where we have a very individualist culture. And I think that there are pros and cons to, more individualistic cultures and more collectivistic cultures.
Sure.
It's not that one is necessarily better than the other, but speaking from a culture where we do have individualistic values and tendencies a lot, that can kind of get us in a trap sometimes where we feel like it's all up to us, or we have centered ourselves instead of understanding where we stand in the context of history and in the context of our current moment.
Can you give some closing words of advice or encouragement for any young adult watching?
Well, I would say that no matter what your personal religious beliefs are, it is the correct, best response to have hope in this moment and in every moment. And I know that sounds really trite and cliche to say, but I really do believe that cynicism is a cop out, that we have to have hope and faith in ourselves and in each other, that we can do something about our world and that we can do something that will help our neighbors. And not only can we do something, but we should. And so my hope is that we will, especially as a younger generation, that we will reject the cynicism that is really easy, and that we'll choose a path that's a little bit harder. It takes a little bit more sacrifice. It takes a little bit more energy out of us when we do it. But that path is the way that we can actually make a change in the world, that we can build on the people who have come before us, who did not give up hope, and that we can build something better for the people who are coming after us, who require that we have hope in this moment. That's what I'll say to anyone out there. And for other people of faith, if you're a person of a different faith, but especially if you are a Christian like myself, I hope and I pray that you will remember what we are called to do, which is to love God and love our neighbor. And we don't get a choice in that second part. we do have to love our neighbors, and that looks different in different moments. But right now, I think that one of the ways we can love our neighbors is by having hope and by sharing that. So that's my message.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your time and for this conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a great day.